first governor from my home state of Illinois to ever be impeached. He's just written this book, The Governor. Please welcome Rod Blagojevich. Oh my gosh. So what's going on in your life?
Well, first of all, this kind of makes me feel like I'm Foster Brooks walking into the old set of Dean Martin.
Oh, yeah. What an analogy. I don't know if you want to go there to Foster Brooks.
Well, after the year I've had, you kind of want to be Foster Brooks.
Huh?
Yes.
Yeah. So why do you think we're all so fascinated by you in this story?
I wasn't aware that you were, but I get...
Well, we're on a lot of shows.
Yes. Let me say I'm fascinated by you. I think I met you before in Chicago at Nookie's. At Nookie's on Halstead. I was campaigning for Congress, and I was in the restaurant shaking hands, and you were in a corner with somebody, and I said hello, and you were very nice.
I remember that. You offered me a job as a waitress for a low, low price.
No, I offered you a job at the Chicago Streets and Sanitation.
Oh, well, yeah. Hey, listen, I always wanted to marry a garbage man. I did. I was like, I got a city job. It's steady. I get to see him all the time in the alley.
Yeah. Well, you're from Chicago, so you understand it. Yeah.
So you're growing up in Chicago. You go to Lane Tech High School. Well, what did your folks do for a living?
My dad was an immigrant who came from Yugoslavia after World War II. He was a prisoner of war.
So is your dad still around?
No, he passed away in 1988.
I'm sorry to hear that. What do you think he'd be thinking about everything that's happening right now?
He would think that everything is extremely upside down, and that his son, in fact, both of them have been wrongfully accused of crimes they didn't commit, that we've been lied about, and that the truth is just the opposite of what's been alleged.
Right. How can that be? I mean, you know, who, like I wouldn't want anybody to listen in on my phone calls. And, you know, when I was reading the book and you were talking about when you said, go ahead, tap my phone, go ahead, listen to my phone calls, like, I would never, I'm not doing anything illegal, but I wouldn't want anybody listening to my phone calls. What were you thinking when you said that?
Well, I was thinking, I didn't know that they were tapping my phone calls. I got a question about someone potentially wearing a wiretap.
Right.
And I said, in all honesty, and I stand by everything I said, if you were to listen to all of my telephone conversations, you would hear a governor who's honestly working on behalf of the people. You may hear some language that you wouldn't hear me say in public, but you would hear an honest governor working for the people. The very next morning, they came to my house at 6 o'clock, where our little kids, our little daughters sleep, and arrested me on charges that are false. And let me point out, there are hundreds of hours of taped conversations. And they got one thing right. I said some bad words, and I apologize. I didn't know anybody was listening.
I don't think they're upset about you saying bad words.
Well, they made a big deal about some of the words I said. And again,
I know, but that's not the point of what you're going through right now.
No, it's not. But that's the only thing they said, basically, in the context of what the truth is that's accurate. The accusations on the crimes are completely false. They made a statement.
So, Rod, you really didn't at any point think to yourself, you know, I'm in a situation here, and you know how you get empowered when you're around certain people? There's a lot of yes men around you when you're the governor, right? There's not too many people challenge you. You're in a position of power. Do you think maybe your standards go askew a little bit, and maybe you're not making the right decisions sometimes, and you thought, I have this opportunity to give the Senate seat to somebody in exchange for something to give me a little more power?
Right. Here.
Well, did you feel that at all? A little bit? You never thought, I got something real powerful here, I can get something in exchange for it?
That's accurate. In exchange for what? That's the operative question.
Well, that's what you say. You say, I'll just,
Yeah, I write in the book that on the day before I was arrested and falsely accused of things I didn't do, I directed my chief of staff to consummate a political deal that we've been discussing for weeks and weeks that was painful to me personally, to appoint this person to the United States Senate. But in exchange for that, we would get we would get legislation passed that would put 500,000 people to work, because it would be an investment in public works.
Yeah, but you can't,
it would expand health care to families and a written guarantee not to raise taxes. And that's the truth.
So you were doing it for the
people of Illinois. For the people of Illinois.
Okay, I understand that there might be a means to an end, but nowhere in the book, just from my observation, and maybe I'm wrong, I would describe you as, you know, a perpetual victim of circumstance. But can that possibly be true?
Which one?
Every circumstance. It's someone, you know, your father-in-law led you to this, you know, your buddy Tony Rezko did that. You never say, I made really bad choices at certain points. It was like, I was doing the right thing and so pushed me into this or that. At some point, I mean, even for your own children, you want to say, be accountable. Sometimes you make bad choices. you don't say that at all, honey, and I'm not expecting you to say it. You know, I know you're in a legal situation, but...
Oh, no, with all due respect, I hope you read the book. But
I did.
I acknowledge the mistake on Tony Resco. And I say, as President Obama said, that's a relationship both of us regret. We thought he was a different person. We thought he was an honest person. He got involved in things we knew nothing about. He was someone we didn't know he was about. President Obama said it was a boneheaded decision to be involved with Tony Resco. I said in my book it was a stupid decision. And looking back, had I known then what I know now, I would not have done that. No, I acknowledge those mistakes. But what I will not acknowledge things that are not true. And let me tell you what the truth is.
Okay.
And the truth is in hundreds of hours of taped conversations. Now, think about the thickness of this irony. I was falsely accused. Those who accused me arrested me in my home. They locked me up in a cell. And while I'm sitting in a cell, my accuser said he was stopping a crime spree before it happened. He suggested I was trying to sell a Senate seat for financial gain. The very day before, I'm on those same telephones telling my chief of staff to make the deal with the President of the United States' new chief of staff, Rahm Emanuel, to get jobs for people, health care for people, and no taxes for people. Now, somebody is lying. The tapes tell the whole story. I've said you should hear all the tapes.
But have you listened to all the tapes?
My lawyers have heard all the tapes. I've heard tapes. I am prohibited.
Well, wait, your lawyers... Okay.
I am prohibited. I'm sorry, but you need to know the truth.
Can we have a sidebar?
But let me,
You went to law school. I didn't.
I'm prohibited.
I'm only a nurse, but I might inject you with something just to get you to quiet down.
Okay.
I understand you're heated because you have lost a lot here. This is a very sad story. This is a family.
Yes.
Wife and kids. Yes. But at some point, is there no accountability? I
acknowledge a mistake in some people in relationships. I talk about that in detail.
Honey, it can't be only about the people we're involved with.
I've never committed a crime. I'd never intended to commit a crime. And the truth is the opposite.
Well, intended to commit a crime. Maybe not.
I never committed a crime. And let me finish the point I'm making.
All right.
You want to know the truth? Hear all the private, secretly recorded, taped conversations on my phone.
How are we going to hear those if it's hundreds of hours?
The public has a right to know. I've advocated that you should hear them. The press has sought to have them released. You know who's keeping them from hearing them?
No.
My accusers, the prosecutors, went into court and
said... Why can't you go into court and say, I want them released? Let's listen to them. A judge would let you do that,
The judge has already rejected the media's request for those tapes to be public. Okay? Now, the irony here is, what if I accused you of crimes you didn't commit? And I took some conversations from your phone calls out of context. And then I said, and I go to court and I say, but you can't hear the rest of those conversations. But I twisted things so that all your studio audience think you were trying to sell a Senate seat that you weren't doing. And then...
Well, that is what everybody thinks. You're right.
Because
but I mean, I don't mean that as a joke. Everybody thinks that's what you said. This is a effing valuable thing. You don't just give it away for nothing. And that if I don't get what I want, I'll just take the Senate seat myself. What did you mean by that?
Well, again, they took conversations in context and out of context and said some things. What do you think comes after that? What do you think comes after that? You would think...
I want a job for my wife if I get the thing?
No, you may...
No? Well, no, what happened after that? Tell me. It's just that when we're taking a Senate seat, which is something that we have a right to, put the right person in...
That's right.
Okay.
And I made a decision to put the Attorney General of Illinois in there in exchange for jobs for people, health care for people, and justice for people. Put aside my own personal aversion.
But not money?
Never money for me, never financial gain for me, never a quid pro quo one for another. We discussed a variety of options, and it was about doing the right thing for the people of Illinois. Did I discuss my future when I'm no longer governor in conversations with aides and some of those hundreds of hours of conversations? Right. Yes, of course, that's a natural thing. But they take it out of context, then they go to court and don't allow me to have you hear the whole thing in its full context, and then you buy into the stuff they're saying. The question...
I'm not buying into it.
I hope
curious.
Okay.
Because...
Don't you want to hear the tapes?
I do want to hear the tapes.
Yes.
I would like to hear all of them, but I'm hoping that for your sake, I just think there's a lot of people around you. Why isn't somebody coming forward going, listen, he's getting a bum rap? Of all the people you worked with.
Yeah, there are people who are saying that. There are people who are saying that. The book
can we come back? Can we come back?
Okay.
We'll be right back, Rod. We'll be right back.
Okay.